Bro, can we bring up...
K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we're expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at advertise@k98talk.org. The leader in talk radio on the Internet, right here on K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
It got up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems. Well, perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple.
It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground.
We have serious problems to solve, and we need serious people to solve them.
Republicans and Democrats.
All right, folks, it's Saturday morning. You know what that means. It's time for Finding Common Ground. I'm Rick Robinson, joined today by Bryce Robbins, my living co-host.
Everybody.
How are you today, sir?
Well, I'm upset that I missed my show Opinion Nation today. For everyone who normally listens to Opinion Nation, apologize. I was caught up. Somebody bailed on their job, so I had to go fill in. But all in all, I'm good. So... can't wait to talk about some Al Gore today. That'll be fun. How are you doing, though? You seem to be having a stressful week.
Yeah, you know. It's been kind of a rough week. We lost a coworker of mine towards the end of last week. We're supposed to have the memorial service, or a memorial for him, not actually the service, sometime today, but it looks like because of other situations, I probably won't be able to get there. Also, still starting to try to get ready for the move, and then on top of it, a radio icon, a mentor of mine, and also someone who actually did it towards the end of our time together. Actually became a friend. Passed away just the other day. So if I seem a little out of sorts, it's just because there's lots of stuff going on, and I don't know. I think I need a vacation. Just saying.
Hey, it's rough. I won't go too liberal on you today.
Too late. You're breathing.
Well, yeah, we have those rough times. So
that's all right.
Condolences, you know.
You don't have to hold back on my account. I already know you're going to be like, oh my God, Al Gore, Al Gore, Al Gore. I actually was going to take a second and find him a theme song today, and I didn't do it yet. So I need to get one ready, I guess.
You know, it's definitely a rough time when Bryce is chanting Al Gore and Rick's kind of, you know, just meh. But, you know, as they say, the show goes on, I guess.
Well, I mean, you know, I know there's lots of folks. I mean, I don't know. I don't even think the folks on your side of the aisle know what the heck's going on with the Democratic primary right now, because their anointed one is probably about to go into a Prison Orange jumpsuit, or at least she would if she didn't have such great connections. So, fun times.
Oh my God! She should get her just desserts though. She did a terrible job as our Secretary of State, and she's a criminal.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. She's been a criminal since the Nixon administration.
Yeah, it's not too far from the truth. But here's what I'm looking at, and we talked about it before we heard about Gore. That's really what everyone's talking about, is how with Joe Biden possibly entering the race, that's going to detract not from Sanders, but from Clinton. And that's Sanders' path to victory. If Al Gore runs, again, same principle. Nobody's going to flock from Sanders' camp to Gore. They're going to flock from Hillary. Al Gore is the perfect person in the middle to break this campaign into something exciting, because we have Hillary, who's practically on your side. Sanders is all the way over here, and Gore, he's more towards Sanders, but he's in the middle of that. That's why Martin O'Malley is not going to do anything, because he's a younger, immature Sanders who doesn't really know his place. He's just pandering to the people. Lincoln Chafee is a nothing as of now. And I've been hawking him for an interview, as I've been promising on Opinion Nation. And I'll keep following up. I mean, I've been in contact with his scheduler or his secretary, whoever she is. But she says, you know, she's doing this, he's doing that. So I guess he can't find 15 minutes free, but hopefully soon.
Yeah, well, I already told you, I cannot and will not pull the lever for Sanders. There's no way. I'm telling you, and it irritates Dave every time I say this, because he thinks the comment is beneath me, but it makes my skin crawl to even think about pulling the lever for Bernie Sanders. I mean, don't get me wrong, if it comes down to in the general a choice between either Bush or Christie, I'm just going to hand the folks outside of the voting booth a squeegee and some cleaning solution, because I'm either going to throw up or my head's going to explode. I'm not sure which, but either way, it's not going to be pretty.
I mean, the way I view it, the problem with your party is everybody who is up there in the debate stage, they feel the need, except for Donald Trump, may I put that in, that they have to adhere to conservatism. I felt like Donald Trump said it without saying it, that not all Republicans need to be conservative. That's not the case. You know, some of the most famous Republicans that are thrown out in history, you know, Lincoln's, Eisenhower's, Roosevelt's, were not conservative. They were liberal for your party, but it's different than a liberal like Bernie Sanders. They foster, you know, personal responsibility, while also at the same time, you know, embodying the idea of embracing economic equality. Whereas, you know, in the conservative idea, it's, you know, tax breaks and trickle down or whatever. It's stuff I hate. But I feel like Donald Trump is that segue back to the non-conservative Republican Party. And I think when we get there, when the Republicans have a candidate who's no longer, fully embracing the idea of conservatism, who breaks away, who socially is liberal, because that's where this country's going. That's we got to accept that.
We ain't got to accept shit.
No, not necessarily to accept it, but that's just the fact of the matter is that this country is socially, we're liberal. And I think we're looking for someone who has clear economic policies that is not a ridiculous $15 an hour minimum wage.
Isn't Bernie pro $15 an hour?
Yeah, exactly. People are looking for something with more than just saying something. Everyone wants to hear you get $15 an hour. Then that'd be great. But the fact of the matter is, you got to work for it. My job...
You do realize... Hang on a second. Before you go too much further, you do realize this whole economic equality thing fails pretty much every time it's tried. Case in point, a recent CEO who was making millions of dollars cut his pay to $75,000 a year, raised everyone else who was below $75,000 a year to that mark, and that was the cap out for everybody in the company. They all made $75,000 a year. That company's about to go bankrupt. Because,
I know that was a terrible idea, though.
But how is that? I don't understand how you can look at that and say that is a terrible idea, but you espouse income equality, because is that not exactly what you're saying needs to happen? Is everybody that has a lot needs to give up some so everybody else can get to the same place?
No. That's not what I'm saying. I believe that, just by the numbers, just by what we're showing, is that American workers are working more, and they're getting 30% less than they did in the year 1970. When you adjust for inflation, you're getting 30% less in return. From that, we're seeing huge pay disparity, and the top 1% is doing phenomenal. If you're rich, you're doing great. This is the best time, and if you're a consumer as well, which we all are pretty much in this country, you're getting the best of everything. You're getting the best products. But the fact of the matter is, when you go back to work, you're making less, working more. And I think that's through the fault of stupid leadership, through, as Donald Trump would put it, as dummies and incompetent deal makers who willingly ship jobs overseas so that they can pander to the electorate and saying, look how much prices are dropping, the cost of living is going down, because they're shipping jobs out, they're making life, so to speak, cheaper, but at the same time, they're shipping out the same jobs that give Americans money to make life cheaper. I think the harder job is to keep jobs here in America so Americans have money, and regardless of whatever the cost is, we'll have money to buy things. That's the whole argument. If you increase the minimum wage, you make more money so you can spend more money, and if the price goes up a little bit, so be it, because we're making more money. That's the argument, at least.
Except you're missing the point, because now corporations like Wendy's and McDonald's and everybody else, because of all this, we got to pay our workers a minimum of $15 an hour, whether they deserve it or not. They're looking at ways to automate things. And I want to go back to another point, because now I'm really confused, because you keep over and over again, pretty much at least once every couple of months, you mention this whole problem with income inequality. The whole idea behind income inequality is that there are haves and there are have-nots. From my understanding of income inequality, the idea is to basically take from those who have to give to those who have not, so that we can get everybody to pretty close to the same levels. So again, when that fails, when it's tried, case in point, this company right here, how can that be a viable solution? Because it fails every time it's tried, because eventually people get pissed off, because you've got people that work their tails off to get that $75,000 a year, then they just watch somebody that calls in sick 4 times a week come in and say, oh look, now I'm making $75,000 a year too. That's the problem with the whole victim mentality. We're going to get to the point where we have more people in the cart than we have pulling the cart, and then the damn thing's not going to go anywhere. And I'm telling you right now, we're already almost there, because we've raised an entire now couple of generations of people that have grown up in the welfare state, and now their children have had children, and they're in the welfare state, and now those children are starting to have children, and they are in the welfare state. That's why I've said for the longest time, income inequality is not, the whole idea of taking from somebody to give to somebody else, that's one of the things that drives me crazy about the progressive movement. You're going to tell me that I can't tell a woman, hey, you probably shouldn't kill your own child just because they're not born yet, but you have the right to take from my paycheck and do with it whatever the hell you want. How is that fair?
All right, here's the thing. Here's my argument. I disagree with the making everything equal. The company you're talking about, I disagree with that. And I agree. We need more people pulling than getting in the car. Here's the thing, though. If I break my leg and I'm worth $12 million, and I break my leg and I'm worth $12, the cost to for healthcare is going to be the same. So my belief, and it's shared by a lot, even Donald Trump, we have to help those who can't afford it. And when I'm talking about income inequality, I mean make it so that the costs that are going to be flat for everybody, healthcare, so expansion of Medicare, those things the government should probably step in and help people with. That is when we should start taxing the rich.
Because the government stepping in works so well every time it's tried. Case in point, EPA.
Yeah, I mean, but look at all the great things the EPA has done.
Yeah, I mean, and they just poisoned an entire river.
Right now, the EPA is so let's just call it for what it is, though. It's not just the EPA. You have the FDA, where the head of the Food and Drug Administration was the former vice president of Monsanto. So these organizations are not the cleanest, most wholesome, have the best intentions to their titles. The head of the FDA is clearly not looking out for your safety. They're looking out for how we can best produce in this country. And that's probably what the EPA is doing.
But you just proved my point. You want the government to have more control over more things that they already don't have control over, and you think it's going to turn out well. EPA, FDA, you just proved my point. Those things were put in place to make things better, and all they've done over time is morph into these ginormous things that feed on themselves, eat more money than they deserve, and before we know what's happening, they're doing things that are not in the best interest of the people because they're only concerned about trying to find more and more ways to hold on to their power. I mean, for God's sake, we're talking about something that's going on in Congress right now where the EPA is basically trying to take control of the entire electric grid in this country, and they can't even do one simple project without polluting a river. And you tell me that more government control is the way to go? No, sir, I don't think so.
Well, here's the thing, though. With the EPA, with the river, people are going to get held accountable for it. That river, though, was already leaking millions and millions of tons of that toxic sludge.
Oh, so it's okay because it was already happening? And when exactly and how exactly are the EPA going to be held accountable? Because if this was a private corporation that did this, the EPA would have already swooped in, sealed records, levied fines, and everything else. The EPA is not going to be held accountable for crap because nobody holds them accountable for anything because they're not accountable to anyone.
Okay, but here's on the flip side. You take away those government agencies, right? And now we have private companies. You know how many people have been held accountable for the 2008 crisis on Wall Street? One person has been sent to jail for private industry taking trillions of dollars and homes from people. So if we say that companies are the best way to do it, there's two extremes here. And I agree with you. At one point, we have a government machine, and on the other hand, we have greedy slime balls who only are seeking profit. That's why we do need to find somewhere in the middle. I think you're missing the
point that they've both become one and the same.
There is a point where they do become one and the same.
No, but that's what I'm saying. I think you're missing the point. At this point, there is no difference between our government and the corporatists. The government is the giant. Our country is basically run as a corporation if you really stop and think about it. The president is the CEO. Congress are the board of directors. We, the American people, are supposed to be the shareholders. The problem is, as things continue to go forward, Congress is usurping more and more control from the shareholders and basically doing whatever the hell they want, whenever the hell they want to do it. I don't care if they've got a D, an R, or an I behind their name. They're all basically one and the same. This is my point, though. We have all of the people on your side of the argument that say, oh, if we just give the government more control over all the things that are broken, they're going to fix it. The hell they are. They don't want it fixed. Because if they fix it, we don't need them. All we're doing is perpetuating our own problem. Because the more control we give the government, the more things are going to be screwed up. Because if they don't keep them screwed up, we're not going to have to vote for them anymore. Or eventually we're going to give away so much control that we don't have to vote for anybody anymore anyway. Because they're just going to say, hey, I'm going to take this position that was supposed to be 6 years. Yeah. Well, if you healthcare and your car and your house and everything else that we're giving you, it's going to become a lifetime appointment. I hope you like it. And if you don't, that's fine because we'll just take all your shit away from you.
I mean, my side of the argument is always, I think the good reason why I trust government is because we have the power to change it. And that's why I put more confidence in my governments, because I have a little more control over that than I do over some corporation whose main goal is...
We have the power to change it, really. Have you not paid attention to the last several dozen election cycles where everybody keeps rising up, throwing out one party, thinking things are going to get better, and 3 years down the road, nothing's changed? We voted this douche nozzle in because he was supposed to be the hope and change guy. Not a damn thing has gotten any better. And I said we in the royal term because I didn't pull the lever for him. But I want to tell you the truth. When he made his speech in 2008 after he won, I tried to get behind the guy. I really did. I did my patriotic thing. I'm an American. By God, he's the president. I'm going to stand behind him. And then every time I turn around, he's throwing everything I believe in my face and telling me that because I'm a Christian, I'm a criminal. Because I like guns, I'm a criminal. Because I do this, I'm a criminal. The problem that we have, Bryce, is we have too many people that want to give the government more and more power because they, like you, are still under the illusion that we can change it. We cannot change anything at this point because we've already given them too much control. If we do not take some of the control back, nothing is ever going to change. But
How do you take control back?
I honestly don't have an answer to that.
This is my point. Hang on. Here's where I have to capitalize. Because Bernie Sanders gave this speech, and he said, I'm running my race.
Bernie Sanders is going to single-handedly kill our economy if he gets elected. We have become the money changers of the world. If he gets his way and does the 90% capital gains tax for anybody making X amount of dollars off of those capital gains, he's going to kill investment. We'll be Mexico in 5 minutes.
Hang on, though. It's not the point of what his policies are, it's just what he said. He said, you can say, oh, I'm going up against the Koch brothers, oh, I'm going up against the establishment, the big money, the whatever. But I beg of you, don't believe that. Because when millions of people stand up, they win. So to say, we can't change it at this point because we've already given them too much power, I believe is wrong. I believe whether you're a Tea Party or you're as liberal as I am, the fact of the matter is, the ultimate control is that when people unite, they say they're winners. We've
already given them the ultimate control. We do not unite anymore. That's my whole point.
That is the problem, and I would agree with you.
Wait, you just admitted that the problem is we don't unite anymore, but you still don't agree with me. We don't unite anymore because the government's taught us how to hate one another instead of respect one another. If you don't believe me, look at Ferguson, again, a year later. All this crap that's going on in there, all thanks to the Black Lives Matter movement, which, by the way, has really strong ties to Occupy Wall Street, which, by the way, also had really strong ties to the communist movement. I'm telling you right now, we are witnessing the final days of the Cloward Piven strategy, and it's coming to fruition because we do not get along with one another anymore. The second anybody starts to disagree, that's it. It's over. It's done. They know this. They know that at this point they have all of the control they need to do whatever it is that they want to do because there's no way that we're going to come together because we are so divided at this point. We think that people that make less than $50,000 a year are worthless. We think that people that make more than $1 million a year are slime balls. We think that people that are of certain skin colors shouldn't hang around with other people that are of certain skin colors. And I'll even go so far as to say that we've started clumping people together of religions that may not necessarily ascribe to everything those religions hold. Because that's what they want us to do. Because they want us operating out of fear. They want us fighting with each other. They want us arguing with one another. And as long as we continue to do that, they know that they've got us. So you've asked me, how do we take it back? The first thing we've got to do is the same thing that I've said from day one. We've got to realize that we, as American people, if we can set those 7 hot button issues aside, that we argue about tooth and nail, and pick up banners and go to war over, if we can just put those 7 things down for 5 minutes and realize that without those 7 things, we have 99.9% more in common with each other than we do these idiots in D.C., then at that point we can finally start trying to take some of this back. I understand that there may be some things that happen that I may not completely agree with, but that's part of this. That's part of what makes this government great. It's called compromise. That's part of what works when we are the government, which is what we were designed to be. This government was designed by we the people, for we the people, and we've allowed this aristocracy class to take it from us. And I don't know how we get it back at this point, except for to keep doing what a lot of us are doing and standing on little molehills that we hope someday will become mountains and start screaming from them and saying, hey, you idiots, stop fighting with each other. This is what they want. They want you fighting. They want you arguing with each other, because as long as you're doing that, you don't notice all the stupid crap that they're doing when you're not even paying attention. And it's just driving me crazy, because we all keep arguing over the same damn things, thinking that everything is going to be different if we just pull the lever for somebody else. When I'm telling you, at least in my opinion, and nobody wants to, a lot of people don't want to hear my opinion, I understand that, but I do not understand the point of pulling the lever for someone who is an avowed socialist. I understand there's a difference between a democratic socialist and the regular socialism. I've had it shoved down my throat sideways for the last several weeks because I keep asking people to explain it to me. But what you guys don't seem to ever want to acknowledge is once we start moving towards socialism, that never stops. And at some point, socialism will make its way into communism. And at that point, we have given all of the control, all of the freedoms that everybody has fought, bled, and died for will be gone, and there's nothing anybody's going to be able to do about it.
Here is where I disagree with that, however, is that what you just said capitalizes all the things that I want for this country. But at the same time, I want best for the people who don't have. And while hard work should be the main factor into what can get you different places, I feel that the government has set it up to the point where even if you work hard, it's still harder than it should be to get somewhere. Where the government should make it as pave a road practically for someone to come from the bare minimum to be able to achieve. And my fear is that the American dream is slipping away.
You're missing the point. You keep saying the government needs to be the ones to do this. You don't understand. They don't want you to succeed. They don't.
I don't understand. Here's what I don't understand. Is not necessarily the mistrust of the government, because that I understand, but is why would the government want us, the people, to fail?
Because if we fail, they have to be the ones to pick up the pieces. You don't get the concept. This is all about control. Even this pill that you're swallowing from Bernie Sanders is a way to basically twist it to eventually become control. That's what all of this has been about. That's what a lot of us that are conservatives have been screaming about for the last 100 years, because we realized a long time ago we've been going about our daily lives, doing the things that we needed to do, basically playing checkers, while the folks that have co-opted even your movement and taken progressivism and turned it into something that it was never actually intended to be have been playing chess. They've been working slowly behind the scenes, manipulating things, changing things, taking what were supposed to be social programs to help people, to reorganize them, to make it almost impossible for you to get off of them. I know people that are on social programs right now that will not take raises at jobs because that extra $1 an hour will wind up costing them $5 an hour in benefits. Now you tell me that the government wants you to succeed when the programs are designed that way.
I think those are just flaws in the program. I don't think that's necessarily the government intending to keep you.
Then you, sir, are naive.
My problem is not so much entitlement systems. I definitely believe need to be reformed to the point where it's not profitable to stay on certain, welfare systems. But the sheer fact of the matter is that there are
Bryce,
people.
Look at the 2008 to 2012 demographics. How many people that voted for Obama voted for him because they were on some sort of government program and he was the guy that said, hey, vote for me and I'll make sure you get more? That's been happening more and more and more and more. So the part that nobody wants to talk about, I don't think that social programs need to go away. I've never said that. I said they were intended to be a safety net, not a spider web. Somewhere along the way, it morphed. I know, because when I was injured and I couldn't work for a few months, I got on social programs because I did not have a choice. It took me a very long time to finally get back off of them again. I mean, a couple of years, because I fell into the same traps everybody else did, because I was like, well, if I take this job, then I lose these food stamps. Or if I take this job, then they're not going to help me pay for my electric bill anymore. So I'm just going to stay where I am for just a little bit longer. And you know what I finally realized? I realized that I was falling into the trap. Because as long as I stay on these programs, especially when I get to the point where I really am about to be able to get off of them, and I keep making conscious decisions to stay on them because economically it's more feasible to make less money an hour and get the benefits and technically be making almost twice what I was making before by the time it's all said and done, or I can just bite the bullet and do what I've got to do. And you know what? At some point, I made that decision, but there are people every single day that make the other decision. I know them personally. I speak to them all the time. And it's the same thing all the time when I start trying to encourage folks, even where I've worked before. Hey, if you take this promotion, you're going to get this extra money. You'll feel like you're finally getting somewhere with this company. And it always comes down to the same thing. Well, you know what? If I take that promotion, then I've already done the math, and it's going to push my gross income high enough where they're going to cut my food stamps by 2/3, or they're going to cut my housing benefit by 1/3. And by the time they're done cutting all that stuff, the extra $1.50 an hour I'm making, I'm technically losing $3. So I'm telling you right now, you can think it's a flaw in the system all you want. This is not a flaw in the system. This is the aristocracy doing what they do. That's why they've started ensconcing themselves in D.C. Don't forget, the Constitution doesn't say they have to be there nearly as long as they are. They like being there because when they're around each other, it's an echo chamber. They tell each other what they want to hear, they pat each other on the back, and the simple fact of the matter is they may act like they hate each other when they're doing debates, Democrat, Republican, or this, that, or the other, but they get along just fine behind closed doors. You don't believe me? Look at the pictures that are coming out right now with Chris Christie sitting across the table from Valerie Jarrett. This has become an entire class of people that are doing nothing but maintaining their control, and they're doing it because we're too stupid to realize what it is that they've done. And I mean every last one of us, down to a single person that has abdicated our responsibility for the last 50 to 60 years and not realized that when we started giving them the ability to pay us, that we were giving them control over us. And that is a problem.
The alternative. That's where I think you are missing the point, is that I agree with what you're saying, but I don't see an alternative. Do we let people just fail? Do we let them fall through? I understand your argument, and I agree with the bulk of it. But on the flip side is, well, I mean, I've seen some of the poorest people in Harlem, at least that's what it seems like. What did they do? I mean, I get it. You know, get a job, that incentive. But really, what do they do?
We'll have to talk about this when we get back.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
It got up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
We will never fully understand what we've asked of our military service members, of their families or their children, asking them to deploy, patrol, stay on watch, on point, asking them to put themselves in harm's way, to endure it all. But we do understand that it's our turn, our duty, to bring them all the way home, to keep them secure, to have their backs for the rest of their lives. Wounded Warrior Project long-term support programs do whatever it takes to help our most severely ill or injured veterans live independently, at no cost, for life, so that they might stand at ease. Find out how you can help at findwwp.org.
It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground.
All right, folks, we are back. We are into the bottom half of the show already. Where does the hour go? Especially when we're already 36 minutes in. Just realized we completely blew through the first break, so I figured we better definitely take the second one. All right, so why don't we change gears? I think we've kind of beat that horse to death at this point because we're never going to agree on how we fix things because we're coming from different perspectives. You think the government can fix it. I think giving more control back to the people fixes it. And just for the record, that does not mean I think the corporations should be able to fix it. I think we, the people, are supposed to be the government, and we've lost track of that. And we keep thinking, oh, these people in D.C. know better for me what I need than I do, so I'm just going to let them make the decisions for me. And that's what's turned into the ginormous power struggle that we have in front of us, because now they have so much power, they want more. And until we can realize that this country was governed or built on self-governance, not governance by a aristocracy, and remember that these founding documents are basically one of the best creations in history as far as how a government should be run, then we're never going to fix it, and that's my biggest problem. But at this point, let's go ahead and change gears because I just can't keep getting worked up today. It's been too crappy of a week. But anyway, so
that I think would be a good segue from what you were just saying.
Go ahead.
Something that how the Founding Fathers never intended it to be like this, but it's come to this. And something that I can support Bernie's on and a couple other politicians is the breaking up of the big banks. In fact, most politicians, or not politicians, Founding Fathers, they hated the idea of giant banks There's a quote from Benjamin Franklin that said perhaps one of the greatest reasons for the revolution was that we didn't want to take on the corrupted European banking system. And to be quite honest, if the Founding Fathers saw how big some of these private banks are, and I've done an episode, you should go listen to it on Opinion Nation, on the Federal Reserve.
Shameless plug alert.
If they saw what we've done and how dependent we've become on these giant banks, I think they'd be disgusted. But what are your thoughts on that? How should we handle these giant banks?
Well, first of all, we never should have adopted the policy of too big to fail.
That's true.
The simple fact of the matter is, while I don't agree with most things a lot of other countries do, one of the things that I did like, and I don't remember which country it was now because it's been several years back, but they went through a very similar situation, and instead of the government bailing out the banks, they bailed out the people that were associated with those banks, and the folks that were running the banks went to jail. I'm thinking that would have been a much better approach, because the simple fact of the matter is the banks were the ones that mismanaged everything, not the people that took their word when they did the houses and everything else that they did. But let's not forget that a lot of the blame for that housing bubble lies squarely back on the government's shoulders, and I don't care if they're Democrat or Republican, because they were all involved in it. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac basically ran rampant and ran roughshod over a bunch of folks that had no business getting into houses that were 3 times, 4 times more than we knew than they knew that they could afford, and they let them do it anyway. So the problem is, and the reason why the government bailed out the banks, is because the government knew that it was as complicit in this problem as the banks were when everything finally started crumbling down around. The problem is, every single administration, pretty much since, honestly, the Nixon administration, has done something that's been completely shady. The only one I can think of off the top of my head that probably didn't was Carter, but that's only because Carter never really accomplished much of anything when he was in there. Now, even some of the stuff that's come out about the Reagan administration over the last several years is some pretty scary stuff. There's some tinfoil hat type stuff that I've been trying to find ways to validate about the fact that apparently a lot of the reason why the drugs became so prevalent in the 80s was because our government was secretly selling them or getting them up here
on military planes.
Well, yeah, and but the thing about that is, anytime you find even a hint of that, it disappears faster than you can validate it. There's been movies that have come out about it. There's been books that have come out about it. There's even, and I went back to try to find it, honestly, because I actually watched a movie about this not too long ago, and I have to admit, with Reagan being one of my idols, to be honest, the movie kind of shook me a little bit. And at the very end, it actually talks about that everything that happened in this movie was validated in, I believe it was either 91 or 92, but the media didn't talk about it because that was the same time that the Monica Lewinsky scandal happened and the Clinton administration started lobbing cruise missiles in an aspirin factory. I went back to try to find even the smallest hint of the things that movie talked about being in a paper somewhere, and I can't find it now. So I don't know if these people are making
the movie?
I can't remember the name of it right now, to be honest. It came out a couple of years ago. I think it was Kill the Messenger, I think it might have been what it was called. It was basically about a reporter who was doing some investigation on the drug trade. I think he started in the late 80s. It ran all the way through into the 90s. And eventually, by the time it was over, he was discredited. He was actually up for an award over the article until the government turned on him and basically started helping everybody cover it all up because they didn't want the truth to come out, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. The movie actually ended with the guy supposedly committing suicide. However, the autopsy report indicated that he'd been shot twice in the head, and yet somehow it was still ruled a suicide. A little disturbing.
That is a little disturbing. God,
yeah,
conspiracy theories we could do a whole episode about.
Yeah, I mean, so, I'm not one of these rose-colored glasses guys. I know that nobody's perfect. Every administration has skeletons. Like I said, the only one that I can think of off the top of my head that probably didn't was Carter. And that's only because all Carter was really doing the whole time he was in there was munching on peanuts. I'm not sure what else he did. But the whole point of it is, nothing's perfect. We're all human. Everybody's going to make mistakes. Everybody's going to do things that are stupid. But the simple fact of the matter is we have gotten to the point where we're already too dependent on our government. Now, I'm not going to go as far as a lot of my libertarian friends. For those of you who might have missed it a couple of, I think it was it Monday or previous Monday? I think it may have actually been this last Monday. I had Steve Long and Lily Dane on America Off the Rails, who are the hosts of Liberty Unfiltered, and they are libertarian, and one of them is a complete anarchist, and the other one is more of an anarcho-capitalist. And
how do you be an anarchist? I don't understand that.
And basically, anarchy in its simplest form means there is absolutely no government.
So how is that a legitimate place to stand?
Well, I mean, it's basically the entire opposite spectrum of the communist movement. The communists basically want the government to control everything and tell you what you need. The anarchists basically don't want anybody to tell them what they need, and they want to be able to go out and find it on their own, and they want to be completely self-reliant. There are plenty of small groups that are anarchists. There actually are even some places, I think, that are operating currently that actually operate on a policy of anarchism. I don't know if it'll work in a large scale, much like I know for a fact communism doesn't usually work in a large scale either. As a matter of fact, another bit of history that nobody ever really wants to talk about is one of our very first colonies that was established here was a commune. And it failed because eventually people got tired of basically everybody doing differing amounts of work, but everybody receiving the same rewards. That's the problem when you start moving into a socialist mentality. When your job now not only becomes you taking care of yourself, but also taking care of essentially everyone who's around you, somebody's going to take advantage of that. And once someone sees somebody taking advantage of that, somebody else is going to take advantage of that. That's one of the arguments that Dave and I had when Finding Common Ground first started, because we are both avid Star Trek fans. If the human species was a little further along in the way they treat one another, we could probably survive in the type of governing system that Gene Roddenberry had in mind. I don't think we're there yet. I think if we tried it now, it would fail. I don't know if it'll work in 100 years. I don't know if it'll work in 1,000 years.
Enlighten me on the Star Trek government.
Socialism, basically.
Okay.
No money. Basically, everybody works to contribute. You get your needs met based on what it is that you do. And so basically there's no capitalism anymore. Actually, in the next generation, they actually started making fun of capitalists, bringing in a race called the Ferengi, who are basically aliens that are that have built their entire society over. It's not even really capitalism. It would be more cronyism. Basically, everything to them revolves around trade, making money. They even have a set of governing doctrine called the Rules of Acquisition. So, in some ways, I think they were starting to poke fun at capitalism when they invented the Ferengi. But, the simple fact of the matter is, don't get me wrong, because look, in a socialist society, I could get up every day, I could do this radio show or 2 or 3 radio shows, and I could then go work in some factory somewhere for a little bit, and then eventually I could probably do what I wanted to do and it wouldn't matter. But the problem is, in a socialist society, at some point what always happens is everything you do starts becoming monitored and regulated for the good of the people. So that's why a lot of us that starts hearing all these things about this new the internet rules that are about to come into play are completely freaking out, because up until now the internet has basically been the new territory, and everybody can basically just go in here, carve out their niche, do what they want to do as long as they're not hurting somebody else. And now the government's about to step in and start regulating the hell out of it, which means at some point, if we continue down the path that we're going, where we keep giving more and more control to the government, then at some point what's going to wind up happening is those of us that are using the internet to try to get messages to people and say, hey, this is what I believe, do you believe the same thing or do you believe differently? We're going to start being censored. And if you don't believe that's already happening, I beg you to take a look at the way Lois Lerner has been treating not-for-profit conservative groups for the last 7 years. In the last 7 years, she's granted 3 not-for-profit statuses for conservative groups.
I definitely do see that we are moving towards more control over the internet, and I don't think it's a good thing. I think the internet should always stay free and open for all. But I agree that people do need to take back. But at the same time, where I disagree with you is that there is some things that I think would be best in government or community control, such as banks, such as healthcare, such as I guess things of that nature. But of course, I believe that capitalism, free market, moves us further and further, keep getting better and better. So it's interesting, truly.
All right. Well, I mean, you know, I don't know. I guess I'm still confused by the whole hybridization of socialism and capitalism, because I understand the mindset of the whole democratic socialists is that they're still technically capitalist. They just think that the revenue generated by the government should be put to more positive means. And I don't know. The thing, and, you know, this is from doing, I mean, let's not forget, I spent most of my high school career earning social science credits, because at one point I really thought that I was going to do probably some sort of a poli-sci major, either go on to teach or something. And then things changed for me. So I went in an entirely different direction. But at some point along the way, what I've learned over time, and if you look, there's an old adage, those who don't understand history are doomed to repeat it. The problem with everything eventually trying to transition to a socialist movement is it never works. It only typically works in small scales. It only typically works with complete and total control in one form or another. If you don't believe me, take a really close look at all the countries where socialism is actually in practice. They have the toughest immigration laws. It's really even hard to get there for longer than a vacation, because they understand that the system that they have designed can only support so many people. So one of the same arguments that I use with the libertarian folks that are all, open borders, free immigration, blah, 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 yada, 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 you know, that would be great if we were in a society that wasn't basically one that was designed to hand out everything that everybody ever needs as soon as they come across the border. Because that's one of my biggest problems with all of this. We have people that come here illegally that get in-state tuition. We have people that come here illegally that get better benefits than the people that were born here. I have a problem with that. I will always have a problem with that. And if we're really going to start seriously looking at some sort of a system where the government basically can tell me what it is that I can and can't do with my money, which is another thing that honestly pisses me off, then the first thing we're going to have to do is address the immigration problem, because then we can start trying to see about maybe doing some sort of an open border system. And then maybe, just maybe, we can give you crazy socialists a shot for a decade or two, and then I can just sit back and laugh as it falls apart, because I'm going to be going, I told you it wouldn't work, but you wouldn't listen to me. I'm too old to give a shit now.
Well, I hope that's not the case. But, you know, I mean, I think that we're definitely moving in the direction of more or less embracing the progress that I'm looking at. But I still think that there is there are issues with the direction we're heading. I think we need to be guided. I think the ultimate direction, the general direction, actually, I should say, is good. I think that we are going in the right place, but I think at the same time, the issues that you're voicing are clear and present and definitely need to be, you know, addressed. That government reliance is not a good thing. And I think that it should be more profitable to not be on certain services. And I agree with that. I agree with most of what you're saying. And I think the start of it is that we vote for either A, Sanders, B, Gore.
So let me see if I can wrap my head around what you just said. You just said you don't think there should be more government control, but you think the way that we should get to the point where there's less government control is to vote for a democratic socialist.
No, I think that not necessarily more government control, more responsible government control. Just like how I say, when people tell me, oh, where are you going to get the money for all these programs? We don't need to necessarily be spending more. We need to be spending more responsibly. So I think we should be governing or setting up programs more responsibly.
Forgive me because I know we were about to wind down, but your spending more responsibly thing kind of sparked something that I remember that I keep wanting to bring up. You know the funny thing about all those socialist European countries that talk about how great their government is compared to ours?
Yes.
You want to know the funny thing about them? When they get in trouble, who the fuck do they call?
Bingo, us.
So, here's my point. If we start shifting all of this military spending to start taking care of the folks at home, who's going to pick up the pieces when some other bigger badass on the block decides to start beating the crap out of some other little country? Because it ain't going to be able to be us.
Right, but that's not necessarily what I meant. I am one of the people who always believes in a strong military, but I don't believe we should be spending $1.5 trillion on one jet that ends up getting hacked by China so that they can build the same exact freaking thing. I don't believe that we should be spending, as we were talking about during the break, a website that costs $5 billion when I could go buy a website for $3. So, I mean...
I don't know if you could buy a website for $3, but you could buy a domain for $3.
You know what I meant. I mean, my point is that the way our government spends and manages its money is so irresponsible because they have so much, and again, no one holds them accountable for it. And, if you really get down to it, it's so inefficient, but it's the only option that we have at the moment. So, I agree with you that on the part where we need to reduce, you say government control, I say government irresponsibility. How do you do that?
Well, no, and for once, I actually agree with everything that you just said. And this is one of the things, and honestly, this was one of the things that I wanted to hear at the debate, and I didn't. Because one of the questions that kept getting asked over and over again is, what would you do your first day in office? You know what I would do my first day in office? Once I got my cabinet lined out, I would call a meeting, and I would say, we're not leaving this room. Somebody get some coffee, because we're going to go through this budget line by line, item by item, until I understand where every single dime of money is going. We may take breaks for food, we may eventually have to try to take a nap once in a while, but we ain't moving on to anything else until I know where every single dime's going. And then once we get all the $50,000 toilet seats highlighted and we get the $75,000 hammer highlighted, one of the first things I'm going to do is point to one of the guys over there in the corner with the dark glasses on and say, hey, you, Joe, come here. See this $50 right here? Why don't you take your ass to Walmart, buy all these things that we're paying like $400,000 for right here on this list that you can get for about $50, and when you got them, come back and we'll take these line items off. How's that work for you? But the thing about it is there's too many things. The problem with our government, and this is one of the reasons why I think they have too much control, the problem with our government is they hide things from us in their budget line items. Why the hell else would they be paying $50,000 for toilet seats? Because there are things that they don't think we need to know. That is another problem of mine. These people are supposed to be working for us. They do not have the right to keep things from us. I don't care.
I can give you a legitimate example from this. So at my internship that I did, the internship ended, I was working with a senator, and I pointed out, and I drafted some legislation for it. I don't know where it's going to go. I'm still working on that process. But in New York City, they get their energy from Consolidated Edison, Con Ed. And they make money by not updating the system. And I pointed out a piece of technology that could easily be implemented, and it would save the city $40 to $50 million. And I knew about this technology from a previous internship I did with he's a scientist at Cooper Union. And this technology, if implemented, would save the city so much money. And it would save them hundreds of millions of dollars that were previously done in lawsuits and all this stuff. But Consolidated Edison makes $40 to $50 million keeping their system unsafe. They just make money off of it. They make money because there's no competition, because it doesn't matter what they do. Again, they can squeeze in the budget lines. And I 100% agree with you that it's disgusting how in the military the average cost for a calculator is like $40,000 of some sort, or 75, something like that. But you can get one at Walmart for $1, 50 cents, a penny. It's cheap. It's peanuts. But we run our government so inefficiently, and that's the problem.
But see, that's something that's been going on in government for a very, very long time. Because the whole point in business, when you start getting involved in the government, is that they have at least they used to, they have a never-ending supply of money. So when a business is doing business with the government, they pad everything. They say, hey, this calculator that cost us $5, we're going to charge them $70. Hey, this wall that we built for them that cost us $500 to build, we're going to tell them it cost $2,000. Because it's the way the system has always worked. That's my biggest problem. We now have a corrupt group of people working in a system that had already been corrupted by the people before them, that has made it even more corrupt. And it's just this perpetuating cycle. And now we have all of these idiots and douche nozzles ensconced in D.C. that don't even need to be there as often as they are. Hell, I would tell you today, with the technology that we have, we don't even need D.C. anymore. Can we just be honest? These people could do their jobs from offices in their home state, be there for the votes electronically, and we wouldn't need the Capitol building and the electric bill that the entire country is paying for and all the other things that we pay them for. And another question that I have, while everything is broken, why are we paying $450,000 a year for life for retired presidents? These people are already millionaires. Why do we keep having to pay them? Why are we paying $80,000, $90,000, $100,000 a year, depending on how long somebody was in Congress, and even more if they were senators, depending on how long they've been there, when they already have millions and millions and millions of dollars?
Rick, slow down. I want to be in that position one day.
So wait, it's okay because it's going to be you?
I hope so. No, I'm just playing around. No, again, that's where we get back to...
Well, no, I understand that you're playing around, but you have to understand that's the mindset of all of those people. They don't want to change it because eventually they hope at one point it was going to be them. That's the problem. That's what perpetuates this system. Everybody says we need to fix the spending in Washington, but nobody wants to fix it because, by God, somebody's dreaming at some point they're going to get a business built up and they're going to become one of those corporate fat cats feeding off the DC teat. And then we have the other folks that are like, well, yeah, we probably shouldn't pay for their retirement for forever, but hey, I hope to be one of them folks one day, so that'll be kind of sweet if I actually get there. That's my problem. We don't have the resources that we used to have because we have too many stupid programs. I mean, come on, for God's sake. At least, what was it, about 12 months ago, they paid $350,000 to run a 3-day experiment with a shrimp on a freaking treadmill. Do we really have the money to put a shrimp on a treadmill? Why the hell did we even put the shrimp on the treadmill in the first place? Because somebody decided there was something they needed to see about the way the shrimp moved. For what reason?
It's important to know how the leg moves when the treadmill is operating so that we can best protect the No, I have no fucking clue. That makes no sense to me. But that's my point. That is my point. That is exactly what we agree on here, is that the way the government spends money is ridiculous. It's outrageous spending. They make money. Here is the best way it was ever summed up for me. And it was summed up by the scientist I was talking about. He said, I asked him, why didn't this go into effect? Why is this still sitting in limbo? Because if it saves somebody $40 to $50 million, that means somebody's not getting $40 to $50 million. So it's not necessarily about what's about most efficient, it's about who's making money. And again, like you said, if the government is willing to be an endless supply of money, which is an endless supply of control, then of course, you're going to end up in limbo with the most efficient whatever being held out, and that's going to be the big problem.
All right, well, at this point, we have officially run long, folks. So we're going to go away now. We will be back next week. I will be back with you Monday, and enjoy your weekend. Don't forget, here later tonight, we will have Voices of Global Freedom Radio. I'm going to see if the folks over at the Ann and Frank Show are doing one this week. If not, I will probably put up another replay. I didn't find out until much later in the day that they weren't doing one yesterday or last week. And then, of course, tomorrow we kick things off bright and early. You can actually wake up early, listen to me over on Red State Radio at 5 in the morning Central. Then you can tune right back over here and check out God's Pure Word of Faith with Richard Harden from 6 to 8. Then from 10 to 11, we have Bloody Marys and Broadsheets with JD and Stacy. And then, of course, later tomorrow night, we will have Liberty Unfiltered with our resident riffraff, the anarchists of the group, Steve Long and Lily Dane. So stay tuned. Lots of programming left for the weekend. And then, of course, the busy week kicks back off again, and we'll be right back with you here live all day Monday. All right, so that's going to do it for this particular episode of Finding Common Ground. I'm Rick Robinson.
I'm Bryce Robbins.
And we will be back with you Saturday next week. Same time, same channel.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems. But perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple.
It's common ground. It's common ground. Common ground.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.